Hey everyone, tonight I'm going to talk about a topic. There's maybe a little bit of a rant alert here. I may ruffle a few feathers. It's something I have honestly never heard anyone in real estate talk about. And it's about the many sellers who sell their homes to investors and in the process lose a ton of money. And if we're all honest, a lot of times these are exactly the people who cannot afford to lose that kind of money. And I'm talking about people who live in older homes. Often those are older people, not always, but they get bombarded by investors. They get phone calls, they get text messages, they get snail mail. They may have people knock on their door and make them cash offers, typically around 60% of the market value. And given there are homes that can only be sold to an investor who is ready to take some money in hand and do some major repairs and do some major updates. But there are also a lot of houses that just are outdated. They're basically functional. They may need a few repairs here and there, but nothing major. But they may have the original kitchen from 1971. I sold a house a couple of years ago. The sellers are friends of mine. This was actually an investment property that they had owned for several years. There were renters in it, and I said, well, let's do a walkthrough, and most likely we may have to sell this to an investor. And as we did a walkthrough with the contractor and the owner, I basically said I would just leave everything as it is, clean it up real good, and then put the house on the market as is. And there was quite a bit of interest, and I don't remember exactly, maybe I should have looked that up. I think we sold it for asking, or maybe even slightly over asking. I know we didn't really go down with the price. It was priced right. It was the perfect house for a young couple to start out. It was their first home. They would not have had the budget to actually purchase a home that had been all updated. They would have been priced out of buying a house, period, if they wouldn't have been able to buy a house like this that wasn't updated yet. It was ready to move in. They probably wanted to do some upgrades, updates. They may have wanted to replace the carpet. They may have wanted to replace the kitchen. Like I said, it was from original kitchen, I believe from 1971. So it was tiny, it was old, but everything worked. It was functional. They could use it. It was livable, and it was not a bad house. And so I'm talking to people, maybe you have older relatives or you yourself own an older home and you think, oh my goodness, I don't know what I need to put into this house in order to be even able to sell it. Or you may have inherited a home and you just don't have the bandwidth and the time to deal with it, and it's just easier to sell to an investor. And if that's what you really want to do, absolutely go for it, more power to you. But why would you leave 30, 40, maybe even more percent of the value of the home on the table? And why would you give up this much money on a house that can easily be sold to someone else who would love to buy a house like that and then over time put some work and some money into it? I'm part of several Facebook groups for investors, and I see every day those listings. Saw one over the weekend, was offered for $240. It was a cute looking house. The inside didn't look bad. There were only a few pictures, but it didn't look bad at all. It was outdated, and the investor said only needs minimal cosmetic updates, and after renovation value, I don't know, I think he said about 300, something like that. So if I'm assuming the investor probably didn't pay more than maybe 200 for it. I'm guessing here. I'm not an investor, so some of the exact numbers I don't know, but I know the kind of offers I get on a listing that I take of an older home. I have had listings of homes that were 40 years and older where I got offers from investors at 35% of the list price. And to be honest, it's really insulting. And that particular house I'm thinking of, we sold it over asking. We had actually multiple offers. And so if you own one of those homes or have a relative who does, I have different contractors that we can work with, that if you say, we don't have time to empty the house, sure, move out, take what you need, and then let's get a contractor who can empty the house and gets paid at closing. Same with the cleaning crew. Get a cleaning crew in there that it really cleaned up, and have them be paid at closing if you don't have the cash flow to pay for it right now. And then let's see what happens. Sure, this market is a little bit tougher. It's not the seller's market that we used to have, but guess what? There's a bunch of buyers who have not been able to buy just because the prices were so high. And so if there's a home, again, that's move-in ready, that's functional, that people can live in, it's not perfect, it may not even be really pretty, but if people have the imagination of what they can do with it, this can be a real win-win for the seller, that they don't leave 30-40% of the value of the home on the table, and for the buyer who is able to actually buy a house that is something they can afford, and then over time put some sweat equity in there, take some money in the hand, paint it, do some updates, and really have a house that they love, build some equity, and sell it when they're ready to move into something a little bit nicer, a little bit bigger. And if you are in a situation like that, feel free to reach out to me. And I'm happy to take a look at a house, give you a good idea of the actual value, and then see if we can work out something where you can really get the money that you should get for that house, instead of getting an investor take all that money for themselves. Again, if you want to reach out, feel free to send me a DM. Love to hear from you. And if you disagree with me, send me a DM as well, or send me a video and a message in a comment, and let's talk about this. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. You have a great evening.